The Holosun EPS, their new line of the enclosed pistol sights. The main reason I changed the optic on my handgun was finish brutality. Previously, I had also a Holosun 507K with the primary arms reticle, and I really love that dot, but it has an open emitter. That means that if any debris or water comes between the emitter and your front window of the optic, it will not work. You will not see the dot. With this one, everything is enclosed and you can still get, I don't know, like dirt or water on both of the lenses, but you can still see through it and you can see the dot and you can just wipe the lenses away. For most everyday use, open emitter optics are perfectly okay, but if you need it for something more serious, like a match as finish brutality, and you have to shoot those very demanding stages where you have to go prone, where you have to crawl under a vehicle, for example, all of the stuff where the pistol and the optic is not protected from dust, from debris, from mud, from the elements. With this kind of optic, even if you get some dust on the lens, you can still see the dot and it does not impede on the actual operation of the optic. And if you look closely at this optic, you can see that it already has some battle scars on the lens and on the body already just from this one match. The EPS optics come in a couple of different variations. You have this standard size one and you have the carry, which is smaller. You also have the one that has two different reticles, just the dot and the dot with the circle around it. And that one is, I think, more premium. It comes also with the solar panel up top, and it's also more expensive. For me personally, I just went with a simple EPS with a red dot, no solar panel. This one works for me. Actually, at first I was looking at the 509T, which is also an enclosed optic from Holosun, but this one offers you the same size of the window. It's lighter and it sits lower than a 509. So kind of I was looking at it, I was comparing it, and I just couldn't find any drawbacks to this optic, and now I just prefer it. If you look at the both optics, the 509 and the EPS, you will actually see that the 509 is a bit longer and it has a bit more tint. Outside on normal lighting, it kind of seemed that the EPS had less tint than the 509, but here, looking at under the lights and in a more dark environment, it is obvious that EPS has a bit more of a bluish tint, but just because it has less distortion in the lens, it seems like you can see clearer through it. But when we tried the white balance thing and when we tried to aim it at the white target, we could see that this one is just a bit more tinted, so more bluish tint. The 509 seems kind of a bit more brownish, but at the end you do not notice it when you're shooting. The only thing that you notice is a distortion, which is worse on the 509. If you aim at the target and move it around, you will see that, at least from my experience, the 509T has more distortion from the lens than the EPS. I'm not sure if there are some other differences why the 509 could be better than this one, but from my experience, it seems that this is a superior dot. The other big advantage of the EPS is that it also sits very low on handgun. Unfortunately, the Delta uses adapter plates, and I cannot see the standard factory sights over the dot. But if you have a handgun that has a slight cut for the RMR, this will sit perfectly and you can have a lower co-witness with your standard factory sights, which is amazing. Now, I'm not that big on the co-witness of the sights and the red dot. I don't really care that much about it, because for a long time I was running my previous optic with a slide without the sights. I removed the sights for one of our videos, shooting without sights, and I figured that I just don't really need them that much. But since my previous optic had the primary arms reticle, it was very intuitive. If you didn't find the dot, if the dot was not in the center of your optic, you could immediately see where you are aiming wrong and you could correct it. And for normal shooting, that didn't play so much of a role until you do something where you have to transition to your support hand, or when you have to shoot from a strange position out of the cover. And that's the point where it's really hard to find the dot. Before the finished brutality, when I exchanged and mounted this optic instead of the previous one, I went to the local level 2 IPSC match just to try it out. I kind of thought that it will be very similar because it's a similar size, but I had 2 stages where I was not able to find the dot. So I had to go like up, down, left, right. It takes you maybe a second, but in that kind of match, that's like, it's like losing. 1 second means a lot, especially in a short stage, in that kind of competition. So to be honest, it would really help me if the optic would sit lower on my handgun, and even if I had just a small co-witness, just if I would just see the sights a bit, it would be way easier to find the dot. Also maybe more intuitive, because when you draw the handgun, I'm used to seeing my sights, and when I draw, my natural position is to where I see the sights. Kind of that's a small pet peeve of mine, but it's not the fault of the optic, it's actually the fault of the handgun. So not much else to say about this optic. It's very simple, it's rugged, it works. I like it. I still need to train more with it, but essentially I think this is the next step in the Holosun evolution. I think this will outperform and make the 509T obsolete. So yeah, really good optic, and thank you for watching and see you soon.